Hi everyone, and welcome back to another seminar on our YouTube channel. I'm Darcy Furness, the nutrition consultant here in the South Surrey location, and I'm delighted to say that as of May 1st, we're pretty much back to our full nutrition programming. So if you'd like to take advantage of our free services, please reach out to your nearest Choices Markets and you'll be connected with a nutritionist in that store. And to stay abreast of all things healthy, I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter at www.choicesmarkets.com. And that way you'll receive our flyers and our newsletter in your inbox, which is great. It's full of recipes. You'll know when our big sales are and what have you. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. So most of you are familiar with our nutrition coupon. And tonight, here's a picture of it. So they're going to send you an email about 8:30. We're going to ask for your mailing address and a couple of comments from you on the seminar tonight. And in a few weeks, we're going to send you the netback. So it's good for anything in the store. If you spend $50, you get $10 off, and it's also good for sale items. So that's a nice little bonus. Now, tonight, if you have any questions for the seminar, you can type them into the chat function on YouTube. And to do that, you'll need to have signed into your own YouTube account. If you don't have your YouTube account, no worries. Hopefully your questions will be asked and answered. But if not, I'll be putting up Dr. Wiley's email address into the chat function, so you'll have that information. Dr. Wiley also practices in person at Sina Pharmacy and Health Center in Vancouver. And if you're curious about naturopathic medicine and would like to learn more, she's offering a complimentary 15-minute meet and greet to give you some general insight into what naturopathic medicine is like. She can't do specific medical interventions for you in that short, brief time, but you'll get a sense of what it could be like to work with an ND. And now that we're on our YouTube channel, as you may already know, you can come back and watch these videos whenever you want to, which is a great thing to have. Now about Dr. Wiley. So Miranda began her career when she was 13 years old. She had a job in a health food store. Fast forward many years, and she completed a Bachelor of Sciences degree in human nutrition at UBC. And then a few years later, she completed her naturopathic medicine education from the Boucher Institute of Naturopathic Medicine, also in BC. So tonight, Dr. Miranda is going to help us learn some practical solutions, and she's going to give us some lifestyle action tips and also some well-chosen supplements to help us navigate sleep issues and anxiety, two things that I know are sort of in everybody's head these days. So we're going to run for just about 50 minutes to an hour, and then we'll answer some questions. So I'm going to pop out and let Dr. Miranda take over, and I'll see you all in just under an hour. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Miranda.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Darcy. And thank you everyone for showing up this evening. I know, screen time is becoming a bit more excessive, and Zoom fatigue is a whole new other type of fatigue none of us knew about 2 years ago, or I guess in this case, YouTube fatigue. But I really appreciate you taking the time. We are going to go through anxiety and sleep. But first you get to hear a little bit more about me. I think Darcy covered most of this. I am Vancouver based. I see people through telehealth or in person, depending on their particular comfort zone. I have more than 30 years. This summer will be 33 years since I started in a health food store and got hooked on the power of natural medicine. I am compassionate, I think, and definitely a curious practitioner and teacher. I don't like saying I don't know. So I just say I don't know yet. And I do a ton of research until I know the answer. I am a whole food cook. My happy place is in the kitchen with a whole bunch of ingredients that my husband doesn't think create a meal, and I put something together that's a lot of fun. Always learning yoga when I can, aim for daily, but it doesn't always happen because of the two wee ones that keep me on my toes and mostly young at heart. So today we're going to go through Botanica. I train on a number of different brands, but Botanica is very near and dear to my heart. I've been working with them since 2010 because they fit my ethos, a lot of organic, sustainable, sort of globally minded. It's a really heart-centered company. We're going to go over what anxiety is just to make sure we're all on the same page. However, I would assume that if you are joining this seminar tonight, it's because you know what anxiety is and you want some tips on how to make it less of a presence in your life. So we'll look at some nutritional strategies on what to do for anxiety. My first degree is in nutrition. We'll look at some herbal strategies because those can often be the faster or heavier hitting bullets. And then we want to look at how we can restore sleep. It's a bit of a catch-22. We get anxious and then we don't sleep well, and then we're overtired, which makes us more anxious. And so we want to break that cycle. So who is Botanica and why do I love them so much? Botanica is a Vancouver-based company, and we believe in the power of plant-based medicine. So I know from 33 years now that herbs work, mushrooms work, superfoods, nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, all of these things are really powerful. And we want to help people to achieve their health goals. Botanica's mission is to make plant-based supplements easy to make a part of your daily routine. And you'll see that as we go through the presentation. We are Canadian, as I say, very locally based, about 4 blocks that way. And we're B Corp certified. B Corp is a third-party organization that companies can sort of apply to get their certification. They have a number of very sort of stringent checklists, but ultimately it's using business as a force for good. B Corp wants to heal the world, heal the environmental problems, the social injustices by using business as that catalyst. Because if we look at a lot of the problems going on in the world right now, they can often be traced back to big business, profit first, never mind the planet, never mind the environment, the people along the way, just give me my money. And B Corp is seeking to reverse that. Let's all benefit and share the wealth, be that clean oceans or herbal support. So these products are formulated and cared for by a team of herbalists, naturopaths, and wellness seekers who take that mind-body connection to heart. So what is anxiety? Anxiety is that feeling of unease. It can be mild. It can just be a little bit of like, ooh, did I remember to post that letter that I was supposed to? It can be severe and debilitating, and people lock themselves at home, fear of going out, meeting new people, facing the world's claustrophobia. It is useful in certain situations. There's a reason why our brain, particularly through the amygdala, these little almond-shaped parts of our brain, are hardwired to learn about situations that either put us in danger or make us uncomfortable, maybe be embarrassing. And so they can help to prevent us from doing that again. So something as mild as stage fright, you practice, you get better at it, the anxiety goes down. I failed that last test. I'm going to study, and do better next time. And sometimes we just need to wait for the answer. It might be, waiting for the results of a mammogram, and you're just on edge waiting for that potentially bad news and hopefully good news, but there's that tension in the time. So everyone experiences it at some point or other in their life, but some people, it starts to take over, and that's just that constant feeling that something is going to go wrong, or something might go wrong, or the next shoe is about to drop and a horrible thing is going to happen. And then you can't find the joy in your life. You can't find the love. Anxiety and depression often go hand in hand, yet anxiety wins for being the most commonly diagnosed mental condition in the world at about 15 to 18%, depending on the country and the statistics. Depression comes in more about 4 to 6%. And there's lots of questionnaires that people can do online. I'll often, have one that I do with a patient, and then we'll come back to it over time and see what's shifting. So you can grade your anxiety score if I feel that sometimes mildly, moderately, severely, all the time. And then we'll see what changes as we progress. Stress and anxiety are pretty closely linked. Stress is that response to a perceived threat in a situation. You see the bear and the bear cub. You see the traffic, the car coming at you. Anxiety is your reaction to that stress. So the stress, we should be able to kind of, we survived, that's great, okay, let it go. Anxiety is that feeling that it might happen again, or what if, and you replay things in your mind. Again, in that short term, it can help us to overcome a challenge or a dangerous situation. It helps us to learn, what would I do next time? How can I be better prepared? But in the long term, it can become more debilitating. We can't, carry around our earthquake packs at all times. We just need to sometimes trust and enjoy that moment, enjoy that life. So stress and anxiety are out of proportion if it's dominating your life, if it's interfering with your activities of daily living, can't go to work, not seeing your friends, unable to get out of bed, unable to maintain hygiene, then we really know that we need to start addressing things. So stress, I think, is always going to be there, and life would be very boring if there wasn't stress. So it's whether we can roll with it, like water coming down that mountain and going around the rocks and the pebbles and carving our own path, or whether we're putting up dams and boulders and trying to make things go one way and then feeling out of control and anxious about the fact that life is throwing curveballs and will continue to do so. Signs and symptoms of anxiety. A lot of people just think it's that stressful feeling, like I've had too many cups of coffee and then just that kind of that buzzy feeling, but it can have more severe physical effects as well. So that excessive worrying, difficulty concentrating. What is that word? What was I supposed to do next? We're distracted. We're not present. We're not in the moment. We can be irritable, especially at loved ones who may be trying to help, but to say everything's starting to get on our nerves, that could be an indication of anxiety, even if you don't feel overtly worried. Headaches, it could be jaw tension or, muscle tension, nausea and other digestive issues, tense muscles, fatigue. So we don't always think of it being like hyper with anxiety. Sometimes you're just too tired to take things on because what if it fails? What if it doesn't work? Frequent urination or diarrhea, that's part of our actual stress response, is sort of cleaning house so that we are ready to face that threat. We can feel agitated or restless, unable to fall asleep, or falling asleep just fine, and then maybe waking up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, having a hard time staying asleep or sleeping very lightly. There may be overt panic attacks when I didn't know I was anxious, until I felt like, I was having a heart attack, and that pressure on the chest, and went to the ER, and they did all the scans and they ran the blood work, and they, this is just a panic attack, It's, debilitating. You're going to a hospital to make sure you're not having a heart attack. So that pressure, it's that severe that it's really kind of blocked out everything else in your world. As I say, some people might isolate. That tends to amplify the anxiety over time, but just that fear of what if I say the wrong thing? What if I embarrass myself? What if people don't like me? Unexplained pain, sort of that weird feeling throughout the body. So it could be tied to tense muscles or poor sleep, or just a bit of a chronic inflammatory response. There are chemical messengers in our body that talk to each other when there's infection, when there's inflammation. And one of them, at least, makes us feel anxious. So when you start getting that cold, you're like, oh no, I can't get sick now. Oh no, not now. I've got too many things going on. Yeah, you might have too many things going on, and it's poor timing. But part of that anxiety response is based on a very specific chemical signal in our system. And so we might need to be looking a little bit more on physical stress and health versus mental emotional balance. There might be exaggerations in menopausal symptoms, particularly night sweats, impaired immune system, so getting sick more frequently or having cuts that just take forever to heal. It used to be, you got that little burn when cooking and 3 days later it was gone. And now it's been weeks and we still see that damage. And decreased libido, which fits. When we are under stress, our body is in fight or flight. I actually believe that is the next slide. So when we're in this fight or flight response, we need to survive this immediate danger. There is an avalanche coming. There is something going to threaten our existence. And it becomes very much about me, my survival, the individual. And so we move blood away from the digestive tract, away from the reproductive organs. So we'll see that decrease in libido because your body's like, this is not the right time to carry a baby. We need to get over this and survive this. Then we can start, getting back into the opposite of fight or flight, which is the rest and digest, or the breed and feed. Really like things that rhyme in medicine. So we'll see a lot of those symptoms of anxiety showing up in this fight or flight response. This is when the sympathetic arm of the nervous system, which runs all down our spine, is in full gear. Escape the danger, survive this moment. The dilated pupils, eyes wide with fear, dry mouth, especially when we're about to go on stage, that increased heartbeat that many people associate with anxiety. It actually relaxes the airways. If we're about to fight or flight, we want to get more oxygen in. Inhibits the activity of the stomach. We don't need to digest food if we are about to be the next saber-toothed tiger's meal. Will stimulate the release of glucose so that we have enough energy in our muscles, in our brain. We can fight or flight. We can strategize how to escape. Inhibits digestion through the gallbladder, the intestines, secretes hormones, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and cortisol, which we're going to be talking about in a few more slides. Relaxes the bladder, so people are more likely to void themselves or, pee their pants when they're stressed. And this is that moment at the peak of orgasm when we have that ejaculation or vaginal contraction. So there's that moment of sympathetic nervous system, which in sex is sort of based in parasympathetic when we're in this rest and digest, where we have sort of that arousal stage. But rest and digest is when we're calm, man. The pupils are constricting, we're relaxed, We're ready to eat foods. We've got lots of saliva to help lubricate the food, bring in the amylase enzyme, start breaking down those starches. Heartbeat is calm. Airways can be a little bit tighter. It doesn't matter because we're breathing so slowly and effortlessly. Our stomach, we're digesting. We don't need to release sugar because we can eat the sugar. We can, peel the grapes and be all relaxed. Our liver's working well. Our intestines are working well. And we can hold our pee for as long as we want because I'm really enjoying this conversation with my friend. We're going to come back to balancing these guys out. So starting with nutrition, the problem, one of the many problems of anxiety is that oftentimes when we're in that state of stress, if we have too many things going, if we're in a state of worry, nutrition is often sacrificed. I don't have time to prepare a meal. That's a beautiful luxury. I'm just going to, grab something at the corner store. I'll just, have some cheese and crackers or put some nut butter on bread, or, we're not as mindful about the food choices, never mind the sit and digest and set the table and have a conversation and put down the knife and fork between mouthfuls and, all of those good societal things that tell our body that we're in a state of relaxation. So some of it sometimes is just, okay, well, while I'm in this busy stretch for the next few weeks, while I'm going through exam period, while I've got family visiting, whatever that stress may be, I'm going to set things up that I've got food in the freezer. I know exactly what I'm going to be buying, do a meal service, whatever you need to do. But let's focus on food, knowing if you have the advantage of foresight, knowing that you're going into a stressful period, be mindful about setting up nutrition. If it catches you off guard and you just got some bad news and now you're in rescue mode for the next few weeks as you try to put out fires, still, rather than ordering the pizza, try to order, the salads, or at least get a side salad with your pizza. We want to have feel-good foods that promote serotonin and dopamine. Both of these are, serotonin is kind of our calming neurotransmitter. Dopamine is our happy neurotransmitter. Both of those are a little bit interchangeable. Both of them are derived from amino acids. We need to make sure we're getting good quality protein coming in, that we're digesting it well through this parasympathetic nervous system. We want foods that are rich in magnesium. The good news is that magnesium is very easy to spot. It's anything green. Anything with chlorophyll has magnesium at the heart of that chlorophyll molecule. So look for green foods. Foods that are rich in zinc can be nuts and seeds, seafood. These are some things we might need to supplement with if we're sort of under that stressful response. Omega-3 fatty acids, so your pasture-raised meats, your sustainable ocean-wise fish, but definitely something that I think we need to be supplementing with on a regular basis. We might need some probiotics, some of which are very specific for helping with that gut-brain axis and supporting mental relaxation by keeping our intestines working well. B vitamins. We take fats, proteins, carbs, and we convert them into cellular energy using B vitamins. They run that machinery. They're the little minions making sure that everything goes so that we can take our food and process it into something that's going to give us sustained energy, help us with our stress management. We burn through B vitamins more quickly when we are under stress, same with vitamin C. And then just more antioxidants in general. So again, that vitamin C, vitamin E. So whole foods as much as we can, easy to do when we're in a state of relaxation, harder to do when we're in a state of stress and anxiety. So just being mindful of that as much as we can during those steps. And using the hacks as needed to bridge the gap. So if creating a salad, if chopping vegetables and making a stir fry, if creating a wonderful curry is not going to happen for that next little bit, get your greens in the simple way by taking a powder and mixing it in with some water. The Botanica greens, all vegan, all gluten-free. They're tested for 20 parts per million and less, which is the Health Canada guideline. Gluten-free certified is lower and additional testing, which Botanica has not jumped through that hoop. So gluten-free, yes. Certified, if you're a strict celiac, we might want to talk about that. Non-GMO all the way through, jumping a few spits to also organic all the way through. So organic and non-GMO, these are, again, sort of Botanica being a good fit for my my standards and my ethics when I'm trying to heal patients and support the world at the same time. Organically grown and non-GMO, big points. Soy-free, really common allergen along with gluten. Stevia-free. We got the feedback loud and clear that people are kind of done with that excessive sweetness that stevia brings, I can add my own sweetener. I know how to make things to my palate, but don't give me sugar or stevia in everything that I take. Otherwise it's unpalatable, it's undrinkable. And dairy free. So, which kind of fits with the vegan point there. So as we've mentioned, I started in a health food store. I was 13 years old. It was a summer job to get me out of the house. And way back then in the 80s, this meant that you could buy wheatgrass powder, you could buy barley grass powder. And I was around in the early 90s when the first superfood green blend came on the market. And it had this, it had that, it had the algae, the chlorella and the spirulina. It had the grasses, it had herbs in it, it had, all sorts of stuff. It was a really exciting deal. But when you mixed it into water and drank it, it was really gritty and not pleasant. And looking at the label, the first thing on the label was phosphatidylcholine, which was lecithin. It comes from soy predominantly. And it's great for, moving lipids in the bloodstream and was really helpful for people with, cardiovascular issues. But at the health food store I worked at, we sold big bags of lecithin for like $3. So it was super cheap. It was a way of, in my mind, padding the bottom line and making a little extra money off of this superfood blend. What I love about Botanicas, there is no soy lecithin. There's no lecithin at all. There's no fillers. There's no bulking stuff. It is just the greens. And then some antioxidants coming from apple fiber, acerola cherry, apple, green tea leaf, blueberry, acai, rosemary. So a little bit of that antioxidant boost to keep our inflammation under check. We're living in a polluted world. And then we have the greens coming from these grasses and algae and herbs. They grow the shoots. You've got the barley, you sprout it, the grass comes out, harvest that. And then that just gets gently dried and milled up. So there is some naturally occurring fiber. They didn't juice it first and take the fiber out. So we're feeding the microbiome, we're supporting the gut flora. So I really, really love this formula and appreciate it for being pure green, everything that your body needs, and not bulking agent to make it cheaper. 4 options. One is the unflavored. This is your greenest green. So just under 7.5 grams of greens, 591 milligrams of those antioxidant superfoods, completely unsweetened. It tastes green. The berry is also unsweetened, but it does have some berry flavor in there. So, it's not sweet, but it has a bit of a flavor. So it goes well in a smoothie, especially if you're already including other berries in that smoothie. It's kind of a flavor enhancer. The superfruit I turn to more for kids or people who do want just a little bit of sweetness. It has a tropical fruit flavor. So if your smoothie, you tend to throw in mango and pineapple chunks, this would be a nice adjunct. If you tend to throw in blueberries and raspberries, I think the berry greens would be good, or stick with the unflavored for both. It does have a little bit of monk fruit to bring out the flavor of that tropical fruit. And then the chocolate is the least green of the greens because the cocoa powder takes up bulk there. On the bright side, cocoa powder is rich in magnesium, one of those minerals we want to look at when we're feeling stressed. A lot of people also turn to chocolate when feeling stressed out. This might not totally hit the same spot that like a Lindor or a nice organic chocolate is going to do, but it does kind of give that little bit. If you're making your smoothie, a little bit of like, that's a chocolatey flavor going on with it. And then again, that cocoa is brought out by the monk fruit. Other nutritional aspects to consider when we are feeling stressed or anxious is keeping our blood sugar steady. If our blood sugar rose up too high, I say, 4 days after Easter, watching my children find the sweets. When our blood sugar goes high, we get a little bit squirrely and we might not feel as stable. And following that is the crash. And for the crash, there can come some anxiety there, low blood sugar, like body is now a bit starving. I need that energy. And we can go on a bit of a roller coaster. So the more we can stick to 3 meals a day with fats, proteins, fiber, carbohydrates at all of them and feel sated for 3, 4, 5 hours, have your next meal, being comfortably full, an appetite when it comes time for the next meal, rather than being hangry and jittery and not thinking clearly. So losing the refined and simple carbs as much as possible, as convenient as they are and as everywhere as they are, go for the whole grain option, go for the fruits and vegetables, go for the legumes, the grains, whatever you need, or just a good chunk of protein. Start the day with some clean protein. So you begin that day with a nice slow blood sugar rise and fall rather than the spike of a high carb breakfast. Protein and fat, good quality ones with each meal. increase your plant-based healthy fats. So raw nuts and seeds, avocados, olives, whatever you can get. Limit caffeine. So this one comes up a lot. I had a patient, that must have been 8 or 9 years ago now, and she came in for anxiety. That was her chief complaint. How much coffee do you drink? She's so evasive. Well, just say, yeah, I have some, but I'm like, how many cups a day? Like, give me a guideline. Like, how many cups of coffee? Well, cups is a small cup or a big cup. Eventually I had to like narrow it down, like milliliters. She was drinking about 1.5 liters of coffee a day and wanted support for anxiety. Very resistant to the idea of maybe cut back on the caffeine. But simple ones, right? If someone is anxious and drinking coffee, switch to a decaf, half and half. Just, don't go completely caffeine free. You might get a headache or feel terrible. Maybe try 20% decaf, 80%, like 70, 30, 50, and then like start switching that around. So you're still getting that flavor, that morning ritual, but not that buzz that comes with it and upsets the cortisol balance. And then making sure we're staying on top of the vegetables and fiber-rich foods, as I talked about before, the greens. Cortisol, we're going to be talking about a little bit more. It is one of our major stress hormones. It's also something that just occurs. It has its own rhythm to the day. And I'll have a slide that takes you through our cortisol circadian rhythm. But when we're under stress, we pump out more. Our adrenal glands squeeze out more cortisol so that we can fight or flight. It in turn is going to help increase epinephrine or adrenaline and norepinephrine. Cortisol helps to raise our blood sugar. So we get more sugar out of our liver, out of our muscles. So it's ready for us to fight the bear. Elevated blood sugar increases our insulin. Insulin has its own host of problems associated with it, the metabolic syndrome, the diabetes, all those factors. Cortisol also blocks insulin's effect. So we end up with high insulin and high carbohydrates in the bloodstream where it can do damage and less of it going into the cells. So just being mindful of our cortisol and regulating it. It exists. It's a thing. We can't live without it, but we don't want it to be out of whack, either too high or too low. So back to that protein support. Again, I'm too busy. I don't have time to cook and make myself a proper meal. And I'm just keep it easy. We have an organic down here, the non-GMO, vegan, and again, the gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, and stevia-free. So a nice, clean protein. 20 grams of a plant-based whole food protein. For your average 150-pound adult, they need about 55 to 60 grams of protein a day in divided doses. So 20 grams 3 times a day could be, a 3-egg omelet, could be a piece of meat, could be 20 grams of a plant-based whole food protein, or, your bean salad, or whatever it is. You're getting a complete balance of amino acids, including BCAAs, or the branched chain amino acids. They are essential. We want to think of them as vitamins, minerals, like the things that we have to get through our diet because we cannot make them ourselves. So we're getting just under 3.5 grams of the branched chain amino acids. We need them for muscle repair, regeneration, development. And when we set about to make a protein powder, we asked around, we talked to people, we got some feedback, and we heard loud and clear, would like to do more plant-based, really have a hard time digesting the pea-based protein powders. I want to do plant-based, but I just can't handle being bloated for hours afterwards. So we really stuck to being free of peas. We didn't want it to be soy anyway, because it's such a common food allergen. So just let go of all the legumes together. So it is a blend of quinoa, which is a complete protein. So if you want to get your 20 grams, you could have a meal based in quinoa. Sprouted brown rice. So the sprouting helps to sort of digest some of the starches around it, concentrate some of that protein, and then coconut. Allergen friendly, so no gluten, dairy, or corn. Great taste. You got vanilla, which is an organic flavor, organic vanilla with organic tapioca, or chocolate, which is organic chocolate, organic vanilla, and organic tapioca. So organic right through to the flavors. And then ideal for the whole family and those with sensitive tummies. Really, those who have a hard time digesting the peas. And then they've just updated the formula recently to make it a bit smoother and creamier. Plant-based proteins tend to have a bit of a gritty edge, and we really wanted to help minimize that and make it a nicer mouthfeel. Quick sidestep, and then we're going to come back and see how these two things marry together. Some herbal strategies that we want to look at for anxiety, some considerations. One set of herbs are the adaptogens. So these are things that are going to help regulate that cortisol rhythm. They help us to adapt to stress. They make us more resistant, more resilient to stress. A curveball comes, whatever, we roll with it, we dance with it. We just, things are going to happen in our life, and I can be fluid and flexible and move with it. So it increases our resilience so we can adapt to the problems before we reach that point of collapse. And they seem to work on the brain to help regulate how the adrenals work. The adrenals are two little glands just above your kidneys in the mid-back. So they're working on that whole axis and that feedback loop. Another class of herbs we want to consider would be the Nervines. So they're working on the nervous system, which is all throughout. Our adrenals don't sense the world. They are responding to what the nerves are telling them. There is a threat. I see a threat. I smell smoke. I can hear screaming, whatever that ancestral fear pathway might be, or whatever we're developing ourselves. So the relaxants are helping to calm that nervous system signal, so we can still go, okay, there's something going on. I can deal with this. Promote that tranquility, reduce anxiety, and encourage sleep when appropriate. At higher doses, they can become hypnotics. So there's a saying that the dose makes the medicine, or the dose makes the poison. So a little bit will have some response. Too high a one could be too strong a response, or it might be exactly what that person needs. Really depends where you're at. So if you're just a little bit of calming throughout the day, I don't want to feel anxious at work, but I can't afford to be drowsy, you take less. And it's 9 o'clock at night, I'm going to bed and I want to sleep well, you take more. Find that balance. So now we come back to the perfect protein, elevate it to make, as per Botanica's goals, plant-based medicine and superfoods easy for the consumer and easy for people to use. They've now married their perfect protein and fortified it with therapeutic herbs and superfoods. 3 of each, except for one formula that we're not going to talk about tonight, where we had to go to 4. But for the most part, 3 of each, and at very therapeutic doses. One to consider for stress and long-term anxiety would be the Adrenal Support. It has, get my brain functioning, 2,000 milligrams of ashwagandha. So 2 solid grams of a herb that we're going to talk about on the next slide, but it's a calming adaptogen. So remember, an adaptogen is a herb that helps us become more resilient to stress, more flexible, more compliant. It's also calming. Most adaptogens give us a little bit of a lift, so we've got energy to face our day. This is taking that anxious edge off. Reishi is a mushroom that is also calming, has nervous system support. It's adaptogenic, helps us adapt to stress over time, but it also has liver support, kidney support, immune support. It's antihistamine. It's like one of those things, if you don't know what to do, try reishi. It's probably going to do something beneficial. And then acerola cherry. When we're under stress, our adrenals are using up a lot of vitamin C. And then we're going through this stressful period where we're only eating, frozen foods or stuff that we can get quickly off a food truck. We want to be getting those fresh produce, lots of vitamin C. So focus on the diet, but that additional vitamin C coming from your protein powder in the morning or at lunch, awesome additional support for the system. Another one to consider would be the brain booster. Lion's mane is the mushroom in this one. It works on our brain. It's been used for centuries in traditional Chinese medicine for anxiety and depression, also for cognition, focus, memory, concentration. So if you're like, I'm so scattered, I can't even remember my name. Like, okay, lion's mane, let's take that edge off and let's bring that clarity back into our mind. Rhodiola is a stimulating adaptogen. So for someone who is feeling already a bit anxious, this might work well for them. This might backfire. So if you haven't used rhodiola before, just be mindful of that. This might maybe start with the adrenal support if you're really feeling anxious. But if it's focus that you need, I would feel less anxious if I could just get my work done during the work day, then this might be the formula for you. So I'd say morning, lunchtime, never at bedtime unless you're trying to stay up. And then quinoa sprouts. Remember, we talked about B vitamins being so essential to help us convert food energy into cellular energy to help regulate our stress response. This is quinoa that they've sprouted in water fortified with B vitamins. So it really enhances that level and gives us a nice clearer breakdown of what's in each. And it gives, I think the lowest B vitamin comes in at 44% of your daily value. So trusting that there is going to be at least 2 other meals, or at least 1 other meal, and that there will be vegetables and whole grains and good foods included in that, it should be covering up your levels quite well. And then one of the new formulas is the Sleep Better. It has passion flower, which we're going to talk about. This is slowing down that hamster in the brain herb. Tart cherry, which has tiny, tiny micro amounts of melatonin in it. So People who are sensitive to melatonin generally are fine with tart cherry because it is such a small amount. However, when people take tart cherry, they look at their urine in the morning, they have higher levels of melatonin metabolites. So it may have some effect in helping us to create our own melatonin. So it's a little bit mechanism unknown, but it does help with sleep. And then magnesium citrate. So again, we talked about magnesium being required for stress and anxiety, green vegetables as the food source for that. This is ocean water that's been cleansed of heavy metals and contaminants, and then adding citric acid to make a magnesium citrate. So really great for relaxing the muscles, feeding the adrenals, nourishing them. So it could be used in the daytime for anxiety, but its target really is sort of that, I'm just going to have a light meal with a bit of protein to stabilize my blood sugar overnight, take in the herbs that are going to help calm and assist with sleep. So ashwagandha, as I touched on with the adrenal formula, it's an Ayurvedic rasayana. So rasayanas are tonics that you take long-term. So you could take it for like right now and just try and get that feeling of calm. But if you take it every day, you're going to have a better chance of smoothing out those highs and lows and feeling overall more in control of your own being. So calming adaptogen helps to boost our energy reserves, promote health, has traditionally been used in cases of nervous exhaustion, long-term stress. We can use it preventatively and just take it to try not to end up in nervous exhaustion. Or, man, this pandemic really kind of threw me for a whirl. I'm just exhausted. I don't know what to do next. Ashwagandha might be a herb to help find your place in the new normal. Nervine, so it does help with anxiety, fatigue, cloudy thinking, and has a role in insomnia, although it's a longer role. I wouldn't take it right at bedtime expecting sleep. Maybe take it a few hours before you actually want to go to bed. And then also helps to support a healthy libido. So again, by calming our system, we're going to be more inclined to breed and feed, and can also improve low thyroid function, which is another area of the body that can be negatively impacted by long-term stress and anxiety. So we want to have rested sleep and do this little sleep like a baby thing. So cute. So circadian rhythm, starting with the cortisol that we looked at before. So when we're asleep, so roughly midnight to 6 or 11 to 7 or 8 for this person in this gray zone, our cortisol is lowest when we're asleep. So lowest sort of midnight, 3 a.m. It naturally starts rising. And by 6, 7 o'clock, we're out of bed. We're feeling perky, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. We are ready to face the day. And then it's going to start declining again and coming back down. We get tired. We go to bed. It's not quite that linear. It will spike because it goes up with blood sugar. It'll go up a little bit, little bumps with meals. But for the most part, it is naturally lowest when we're going to bed and highest when we wake up in the morning. Melatonin being somewhat the opposite. Almost none during the day from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. Very, very little present in our system. And then things get dark. We stop getting light on our pineal gland. Serotonin is converted to melatonin in our brain. And we see this rise. So if you are going to take melatonin supplementally between 9 and 11 p.m., usually the perfect sweet spot. Any later than that, you might end up feeling groggy or kind of hungover the next day. So the melatonin, hopefully you're making enough of your own, and it's rising, rising, rising. 3 o'clock in the morning, we are should be at our deepest sleep. And then it naturally starts coming down, down, down. We wake up in the morning. So cortisol and melatonin are working on opposite times. The people who have a hard time staying asleep, they fall asleep just fine, but 3 a.m., bing, wide awake. This happens to me. It's the cortisol is coming up too soon, a little bit of a like, dun, 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 wake you up in the morning. And melatonin is dropping off too quickly. And then you're up often for a couple hours because your cortisol is saying, hey, it's time to get up and do things. And there isn't enough melatonin to get that back down. So adrenal support. People are waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're often like, oh, that is classic adrenals. Let's get you on some adaptogens and try to extend that cortisol curve. We might need a bit of melatonin or sleep support, help you feel sleepier longer. And then we are coldest just before we wake up in the morning, which fits with the outside temps as well. So what can we do during the day to help enhance our sleep? Because if we're rested, we're less inclined to be anxious during the day. Wake up, open up the windows, open the blinds, try to get some natural daylight on your eyes. Even if it's gloomy Vancouver winter, still there is enough UVB rays coming through those clouds. Just try to get something on your eyes. Get some movement during the day, whether it's morning or afternoon or evening, really kind of depends on your, they call it chronotype, your particular circadian rhythm, whether you're a morning person or a night person. But move that body. Meditation or visualization exercise to reduce daily stress and anxiety. Again, for some people, this is a morning thing. Start the day visualizing what I want to have happen, do some meditation, calm the brainwaves, get ready, set the day up. Others, it's an end of the day thing, closing everything up, sealing your day off, letting things go, setting your intention for the next day. There's a saying that you should win tomorrow today. So tomorrow, this is what's going to happen, or this is how I'm going to approach my day, is how I'm going to feel, and sort of set that intention and imbue that into your life. But meditation is something I prescribe a lot, and I meet a lot of resistance. I love it when I meet the patient who's like, oh yeah, I do that, half an hour every day. I'm like, great. It's one less thing I need to try to convince you about. There are so many tools, apps, YouTube videos, books, techniques. There's a whole series of it on Netflix. Like, there's so many ways to learn about meditation. No one is good at it. So particularly the perfectionists were like, oh yeah, I tried that. I can't do it. I mean, my brain is too active. Like, that's the point. We all have very active brains, and just going, oh, look at that. I wandered away again. And I'm back to my breath. And now I'm planning tomorrow's dinner, and I'm coming back to my breath, and I'm thinking about the kids, and I'm coming back to my breath. It's the practice that does the good, not the end destination of being Buddha. Eat earlier. So try not to eat right at bedtime. So that's where, just that light protein powder, 20 grams, really simple, easy to digest, but will sustain blood sugar overnight, with the passion flower and magnesium in it, and the tart cherry would be helpful. Encourage foods rich in calming minerals. So again, that magnesium. And then consider unwinding in the evening with a warm cup of lavender moon milk in lieu of your dessert. Lavender moon milk, we've got lavender tea. Again, there's that tart cherry. You can kind of see it on the side of the label. Again, there's ashwagandha, that 2,000 milligrams. You'll see the things that we love at Botanica. We love ashwagandha. We love tart cherry. The lavender moon milk, it's in a base of coconut milk, so it's really creamy. There's some monk fruit juice powder in there, so it's got just a little bit of that flavor enhancement, bringing out the lavender taste. It really is a lovely, lovely way to end the day. A teaspoon into a cup of warm milk at bedtime. I find that a bit too rich. I put a teaspoon into like a centimeter or two of milk, and then top it up with boiling water. And then that's just a lighter one for me, but you can play with that. And then drink before you head to bed. Again, that doesn't work for me, because then I'm like, well, I'm going to pee in 2 hours, and that's going to wake me up. But after dinner, somewhere in that evening routine, getting the kids down, getting the kitchen tidied up, that's sort of a nice ritual for slowing everything down. So you can play with it, fit it in how it works for you. Evening prep before bedtime to enhance your sleep. Let go of screens. At the very, very least, put it on night shift mode, or get some kind of filter that blocks out blue lights, get yellow glasses. But that's the only desperate, I really have to do something hack. Ideally, let go of the screens, pick up a book, magazine, or just don't read, or at least, don't play a stimulating game. Don't check the news right before bed if you have a hard time sleeping with anxiety. You don't need to know what's happening. It will wait till tomorrow. Light some candles, turn off your Wi-Fi before bed. I've just got a notice from Shaw or TELUS or one of those guys that now this is an easier way of doing that. You can set a timer on it or something. I don't know. Looking into that. Ideally, no cell phone in the bedroom. I use mine as my I used to use an alarm clock before I had kids, but sometimes it is still there if I'm having a snooze, but certainly it's on airplane, it's off, no signals coming through. Keep the bedroom dark and cool. Remember, our body temperature drops as we're sleeping and is lowest right before we wake up. So if we're too hot, we tend not to sleep very well. As dark as possible. Mask if you need it. Earplugs. I love earplugs. I wear the silicone ones every single night. It's almost become a bit of a crutch, but I do live in a city. I live on a major road, a lot of ambulances, earplugs, and blackout curtains. I have blackout blinds covered by blackout curtains. And then a regular bedtime and wake up time, even on weekends. Our cortisol, our circadian rhythm. If we start going to bed at 11 p.m. and then I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed at 8. And then, there's something I really want to binge watch, and I'm up till 2 and all over the place. Our adrenals don't know what's going on. I go to bed 10 every night. I go to bed at 9 every night, but if you can just set the same time, and then you wake up at roughly the same time, and develop your relaxing bedtime ritual. So as the mother of 2 small kids, I nourish my toddlers' routines for bed. I want them to go to sleep. So, we're going to get into PJs, and then we're going to brush teeth, and then we're going to read a story, and then we're going to sing a song, and then we do a gratitude cuddle. We all snuggle up together and say what we're grateful for that day. So it's that routine. As adults, a lot of my patients like, well, I just fire off a few last emails before bed, and then I've got to, make lunch the next day, and then I check the news, and then I go to sleep and I can't fall asleep. It's like we need to nourish our inner toddler. So I'm going to take a bath, and then I'm going to do some yin yoga for 5 or 10 minutes, and then have a lavender moon milk and a gratitude journal, my 5-minute meditation, whatever it is, but set up your own ritual as if you are 2 to 3 years old and you need that sequencing, because we love it. It works well on kids. We haven't outgrown that even in adulthood. There are some stronger nervine relaxants that we can turn to. So as I said, milder dose, maybe more anxiety, bigger, they're going to help you really knock you out a little bit more. California poppy, a good herb, beautiful one here, really nice for it's a bit more of a hammer on the head, help you fall asleep. Kava, muscle relaxant, brain relaxant, anti-anxiety. Passion flower, that hamster in the brain, really active thinking at bedtime. Valerian, wonderful herb for 95% of the population, great for getting them to sleep. For 5 to 10% of us, it has a paradoxical effect and makes us more wired. So if you have a hard time sleeping, please try valerian. If it doesn't work for you, you're in this subset, and there are plenty of other herbs for us. So kava, anxiolytic, it breaks anxiety. Hypnotic, it induces sleep, reduces anxiety. It's really well studied. You can find this one on PubMed, lots of good trials showing that kava really is effective in decreasing anxiety, relieving restlessness, supporting emotional balance, good relaxant for the muscles. I recommend this for headaches, sometimes for menstrual cramps, like there's just any of that muscular tension that we want to ease up. Neuroprotective, and then cavalactones, one of the active ingredients that people might be keen for. May cause drowsiness. If you're new to kava, don't take it before a long commute to work. Try taking it on the weekends and see how you feel. Do you just feel a little bit more zen, or do you feel like, whoa, I'm a bit more relaxed than I thought I'd be? Have that window to sort of play with it. But really, really lovely. I really like taking this before going to the dentist. It just sort of calms me as they're in my mouth, which I don't enjoy. For mild to moderate insomnia, the sleep time formula is a lovely blend. You've got nervine herbs, so things are going to help, again, heal that nervous system. Skullcap, milky oat seed, like strengthen the cells that are firing so actively all the time. The relaxants and antispasmodics, there's hops, there's passion flowers. These are ones you could take during the day for anxiety, but it's a little bit stronger in the formula to help fall asleep at night. And then the hypnotics, the California poppy and the valerian. So really, really good for helping fall asleep, unless you're sensitive to valerian, but that's just a small subset. But also helpful for caffeine and nicotine withdrawal, can also be used for pain. So if pain is keeping you up, this is something to consider, because California poppy relaxes muscles, valerian relaxes muscles, passion flower relaxes muscles. So the deep sleep formula, we have talked about ashwagandha. We've talked about passion flower. Magnolia is used in Chinese medicine to help relax the system. So it calms the mind. And then jujube is also used in traditional Chinese medicine as more of a stronger sleep agent. So it's equal parts of all of those. Some people take this, an hour or two later, boom, they're out, they're sleeping beautifully. Some people take it, they don't notice that strong sedative effect, but I still ask, when I prescribe this to patients, I let them know it might work for you like right away. If you don't notice anything, I still want you to continue taking it for at least a month. So 1 whole bottle, before deciding it doesn't work for you. Because for some people, it's that adaptogen. It's teaching their system, now is the time to fall asleep. Now is when I get relaxed. Now is when I'm setting into that pace. It's part of that nighttime ritual and kind of a sleep adaptogen, a sleep trainer. And at that point, people generally are like, yeah, I'm a much better rhythm. And they can either come off of it like it was training wheels, or they choose to stay on it. To help you choose which herb, because I've just talked about, 10 of them, would be the best for your health goals, you can come to us at botanicahealth.com and find the plant finder. And then you just go through, and what do you want to do? I want to sleep better. Click, and it'll ask you a few sort of specifics about you and your sleep and how you prefer to take your medicine. And then it'll help you come up with an appropriate product or appropriate herb or drink or protein powder or something that would work for you. So some key takeaways: stress and anxiety, highly intertwined. Stress, we can't always control. We can to some degree, I think. We can practice saying no, which is really hard in our society. We can practice gratitude. Anxiety often ties in with that stress. So the more we can do with stress, there's always going to be curveballs in life. But if the anxiety is taking root, if you're starting to describe yourself as an anxious person, and it's not just an experience that you go through temporarily, but you're starting to think of it as a personality trait, then let's work on that. Targeted herbal medicines, whole food nutrition can offer foundational support along with lifestyle tips and tricks. Nervine and adaptogenic herbs can reduce the negative impact of stress and anxiety on your body and help you support sleep. And again, we've got that, then hopefully a positive rhythm of sleeping better, feeling less anxious during the day, which helps you to fall asleep better, which helps you to feel less anxious. Balancing out blood sugar with good quality protein to curb sweet cravings, bringing in greens, just a lot of nutrition in one drink, super easy. And then mindfulness rituals regularly. Maintain that attitude of gratitude. So a really good TED Talk is Sean Achor, Achor. It's one of the top 10 TED Talks out there, and it's for his book, The Happiness Advantage. It's hilarious. It's 11 or 12 minutes, but he is a happiness researcher and talks about the power of writing down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. Don't just think about it. Oh, I'm grateful for that and let it go. Writing it down. You're actually taking that time, you're committing it, you're strengthening those neurons or reliving something, a really positive experience, strengthen those pathways in your brain. So some fun things there. Thank you again so much for your time and attention this evening. Please join us at botanicahealth.com if you want to check out some recipes, some blog posts, see what else we have to offer. This is kind of a highlight. But I would love to hear any questions that came up during the presentation. Again, thank you so much. I hope you sleep well and feel calm.
Thank you very much, Miranda. That was awesome. I know I'm feeling calmer just for saying all of these things out loud. People that fall asleep and, oh my goodness, that's my husband, falls asleep and always wakes up. So I'm definitely going to look in these. You mentioned, just because it's in the top of my head and we have no other questions quite yet, how would you choose between sleep time and deep sleep? They both seem to be great, but what would you do to help somebody decide?
I'm in that 5 to 10% of people who goes the opposite with valerian. So sleepy time is not a great option for me, although I do still prescribe it for patients. I just let them know, like, if you have a paradoxical effect, I know that might happen, but just, bear with me, return it. And that's the other nice thing. Botanica has a good return policy if it really doesn't work for you. The deep sleep I do like a lot, but if it's really, really anxious monkey brain, I love the California poppy in there. The valerian does work for so many people. So if it's I need to fall asleep tonight, then I'll go for the sleepy time. If it's a really sensitive patient, or, they say they react to things really well, they use lower doses on most things, I'll often choose a tincture because then I can, start with 3 drops. Then tomorrow you can go to 5 drops, then you can go to 10 drops and sort of find your sweet spot. But the deep sleep, it's alcohol-free, it's convenient, it's, good potencies. And it really depends on the individual and whether it's staying asleep. If the trouble is staying asleep, I'd lean more towards a deep sleep. If it's falling asleep, maybe a sleepy time.
Perfect.
I'd even use both.
I was going to say, can you keep using them together? Like, over time, you can use one of them. You don't have to stop after a few weeks, or
you can. That's always a bit of the tricky one with some herbs and with some conditions. It's like, if you need to sleep, if you've been a terrible sleeper your whole life, then I might be like, stay on it long term, because sleep is when you heal, and that, the benefit will outweigh it. If it's a temporary, got a promotion at work, getting married in 3 months, in-laws are coming, like, just things are going on, but it will pass, then I might be like, let's just try it for a little while, get you over this hump, back to, your new routine. I just moved to a place where there's, more traffic than I'm used to, where a street light's coming in. So it might be more stopgap and then wean off of things. But I think the value of sleep is so high, I tend not to worry too much about, especially with like ashwagandha. You're not going to get a dependency on that. Valerian, maybe. Melatonin, you definitely get a dependence. So that's one I use sparingly. But the herbs, I might mix them up a little bit. Use kava one night, passion flower another.
Okay, that sounds good. A couple of questions have come in here. First, a few hellos from a few people that obviously know you well, which is great.
Oh, nice.
Another question, does menopause increase anxiety and anxiety symptoms?
Yes. So with menopause, I ask about like the hot flashes, the night sweats, so like your basic menopause symptoms. And I go through the 5 Bs, one of them being breasts, any changes there, bladder, bone health, blood vessels, like blood pressure or varicose veins, and then brain. So anxiety, depression, and insomnia are all really common side effects or co-effects of the hormonal changes that come with menopause.
Okay.
So yes.
And then a question that's sort of linked to that one, do you treat menopause to reduce anxiety or vice versa? Or as you say, you look at all those pillars and then you kind of tackle them both through those pillars you've just described?
Yeah, it's figuring out everything that's going on with that patient. As a very general broad stroke rule, if the primary symptom is hot flashes during the day, I think more estrogen and hormone balance. If it's more night sweats and hot flashes at night, I think more adrenal dysfunction. So if you're coming in, I've got night sweats, I'm like, let's just start you on some adrenal herbs. We might need to be looking at your estrogen progesterone balance as well, but let's just start with that adrenal nourishing. And that can often be enough. And if I'm putting together herbs, I'll put in a bit of both.
That sounds good. What do you recommend if you can't get your mind to sort of calm down or to be sort of ease before bed?
Yeah. So the sleep hygiene, so all of those rituals of the inner toddler, good stuff. Louise Hay, who died a few years ago in her 80s, was big on mind-body connection. She has a whole bunch of affirmations. And the only one I know by heart is the insomnia one. So talking about sleep is a subject I know. And the affirmation is, I lovingly release the day and slip into a peaceful sleep, knowing that tomorrow will take care of itself. And just sort of saying that over and over, because if you are lying awake with monkey brain, you're either ruminating about what just happened or anticipating what might be happening. And this one is letting you release the day, slip into a peaceful sleep, trusting that tomorrow will take care of itself. If you're not asleep, I'd say within 30 minutes to 60 minutes, get up, do some stretching, have some moon milk, take a bath, have some salts, but try not to associate bed being somewhere where you sleep, where you lie non-sleeping, worrying. So get up, go worry on the sofa. And then as you feel calmer, more relaxed, go back to bed, try it again. If you're still not sleeping, go stretch it out, go worry somewhere else until we sort of set that. Because the bedroom should be that sacred place where like, I know this is where I'm safe and I can, go into my Z waves.
Really unwind.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Can you, another question, can you please share the anxiety questionnaire? Did you say that was at botanicahealth.com?
No, it's not on Botanica. There's just Google.
Okay.
There's the Hamilton, the HAM-A. There's Beck, B-E-C-K. That might be more depression. They might have an anxiety one as well. They're just going to like anxiety questionnaire.
Okay.
You'll find
Google
something
that.
and it'll have concentrating, it'll have constriction, difficulty breathing, cardiovascular effects, and you can do 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, set a date on it, put it aside, try some new techniques, come back a few weeks later, fill it out, see what's changed. It's come down. But there's depression ones, anxiety ones, OCD ones, so they're pretty easy.
Sounds good. And then what is Botanica's website?
Botanicahealth.com.
Okay, I'm just going to put that into the chat as well. If anyone wants more information on those products, that's great. Wonderful. Okay, just give another few seconds if anybody has any other questions here. Otherwise, I'm excited to start the bedtime routine, and maybe I'll even grab some deep sleep from my husband. Keep him in the same bedroom for a change.
Yeah, it's lovely. That ashwagandha, because it doesn't leave you groggy the next morning. So I'll prescribe ashwagandha in the morning if it's daytime anxiety, in the evening for bedtime. Sometimes like take the phytocap, the liquid capsule, and do one in the morning, one in the evening. So we're kind of just keeping that adrenal support in that system under control.
Another question, are all the Botanica products sold at Choices? I think most Choices carry a really good selection of Botanica. I know the South Surrey store has a lot of them. I think it's one of the wellness people's and mine sort of favorite line. So you'll find lots there. You can always call the store closest to you to find out about a specific product. And we can also have it transferred from another store to make it easier for you that way. So that was great. Yeah, the products are beautiful. I love the organic nature of them. I love there's no sweeteners. It really is a beautiful product line. And, it's a little bit more money than some ones that aren't as good for you. But when you start taking things like powders and your concentrated food sources, you really want to make sure you're getting a top-notch quality. So I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, we have on a different training, a breakdown of the Perfect Protein Elevated, the immune formula. And it's more cost effective to get the formula than to buy everything individually.
That would make sense.
It's more convenient. And then it's also like, oh, look, 2,000 milligrams. That's a pretty significant dose.
That's a really good dose. Yeah. And I think too, sometimes when you have too many things, too many steps, we just don't do it. And we do like things simple. And because they've been formulated in the right dosages for us, I think that's really important too.
Yeah.
So that's really wonderful. Okay, well, lots of thank yous. And thank you. Yeah,
Thank you
you very
everyone.
much, Miranda. It was really great.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight. And keep an eye on the newsletter and see the upcoming seminars. And I hope to see